we're going to use mics for the benefit of the proceedings, which are being videotaped. I guess we have to say that for legal purposes.
Anybody wants to leave, they can leave.
We can dim the lights if there's anybody that should be here or shouldn't be here. But thank you again for coming. My name is Rolando. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and the EVP for the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. You'll be hearing from me a little bit later on, but I really wanted to defer to some of the other folks, not only up here on the dais, but yourselves, because what we're talking about is the Convention and Visitors Bureau strategic planning process. Incredibly important process to help us develop the roadmap for the future of the hospitality industry for Greater Miami and the beaches. We've dubbed it Destination Miami. Miami has been on an amazing run. We're seeing lots of successes in our industry, of which many of you are responsible for. Thank you for that. But to ensure that success in the future, we need to make sure that we're constantly looking at the future and what are the trends and what are the things that we should be looking at to ensure that continued success. In order to do that, the Bureau undertakes a strategic planning process approximately every 5 years. We're about that time now. We do it in partnership with many, many folks, yourselves, our interlocal partners, and we also identify some great partners, in this case, Ernst & Young and MMGY Global, and there's someone from that partnership here today.
Ernst & Young is a Miami company.
Ernst & Young, a global company with significant Miami operations, and MMGY, as their name implies, is a global company, has a lot of expertise in the destination marketing space. So after a very competitive process through committees and through an RFP process, we selected Ernst & Young to help us along this path, to build this blueprint. Of course, leading the effort from the Convention and Visitors Bureau side is our President and CEO, Bill Talbert. So I'm going to defer to him for a moment, and then you'll hear from me and Steve in a bit. So, Bill?
Okay, I'm gonna be brief. I want to give a shout out to, I serve on the FIU School of Hospitality, their advisory board, and proudly so my car knows this place. We have Dr. Larry Rice, who's the former chair of what's now the Black Hospitality Initiative, so thank you for being here, and one of your colleague board members. We have some of our senior team here, Alvin West, our CFO. We're going to make payroll Friday.
We'll make payroll.
We have Gisela Marti, who is a VP of Tourism Sales. We have some refugees, Martin, who is a refugee, still part of the family. We have Barry Moskowitz for convention sales. Thank you, Barry. And Sonia Fong, recently promoted for you. Congratulations, Sonia, from convention sales. We have some former staffers. Most are former staffers, they're part of the family. Let's see here. Sandy Ginsberg Edwards. You got on to me at the last session. Working with our attractions component now, and welcome back. Ibis Romero, part of the family, up in Northeast Dade, and you'll be speaking. And I think your mayor was going to maybe come, and so we're excited. I don't know who I've missed somebody, Barry Harris, and Deanne. You don't get to talk this time.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You know, we had a session. What day was it last week?
2 Fridays ago.
Was it 2 Fridays ago? Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2 Fridays ago in Little Haiti, a heritage tourism, and it was unbelievable. How many were there in Little Haiti? Huh? Yeah. Tell us about Little Haiti. What did you like about it?
I love all the diversity of the different groups that were there to talk about the different cultural and heritage projects that they had going on. And I had no idea there was so much diversity in that one little area. It was excellent.
And I think, were we listening last week?
Yes.
Did you hear that? We were listening. I'm not going to say much. I'm going to take this, sit down and raise my hand, but we have our destinationmiami.org, right? If you don't want to speak, you're too shy, there's no one here that's too shy. Right, Dr. Rice?
That's correct.
So we want to hear from you about what we should do in the future. I think most of you know our market mix. 85% of our 13 million or so overnight visitors are here for vacation. about 6%. You got this great document out here. I know you've got a lot of stuff to read, but take this home. This is chock full. This is online as well. But, and then the balance is meetings and conventions. About 6% of all of our overnight visitors are here for a cruise. And I think you've just seen 7 ships in 8 weeks. And now we own collectively the tag Cruise Capital of the World. You saw a front page story in the Miami Herald. You know, that's an important component, and new ships, because Disney's going to show up for the first time. I guess when Disney shows up, you know that something's going on here. But you've seen hotels develop all over our community, and really you see the ADRs, you see RevPAR. We do need a new convention center. It's small, old, tired, and it's tougher and tougher to sell conventions. 97% of all of our visitors come to that airport. 97%. We're essentially an island. 48% of all of our visitors aren't from the United States. That's by a factor of 2 the greatest percentage. Other destinations may have more numbers, but their percentage may be 12, 15, 20, but 48% are not from the United States. So it's, and we have lots of data, but we want to hear from you. I'm going to stay around. We're going to be at other sessions, and we have a schedule. Go south, go west, go downtown, and I guess we're on Miami Beach tomorrow. We're going to do our South Beach gig tomorrow. So if anybody wants to be at the Miami Beach Convention Center, the Convention Center, you're welcome. So that's my piece, and thank you all for being here. And Deanne, do we want to hear from everybody?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Take it away.
Thank you, Bill. And, you know, just to reiterate, this is truly a listening tour. Well, we're going to try not to throw too much more information at you, but I know Bill threw out a couple of stats, but I guess to get the juices flowing, and that's going to be critical to the success of this session, I wanted to share with you not too many more stats about a couple of things that I think are important as we look back 5 years. And I'm using 2007 and 2011 as that complete year. These are just some of the things that we've been, when we ask folks what the most liked features, and this happens to be our domestic market, just wanted to point things out. Obviously, weather and beaches has been relatively stable, but when you look at things like South Beach and Ocean Drive, when you look at attractions collectively, the incredible jump in the people saying that they like that about Miami. Nightlife, fairly consistent. Sunbathing, not too far from here. I know there's some really exotic sunbathing opportunities. International ambience, we've been known as a cosmopolitan destination for quite some time. Friendly people, yes, we are getting friendlier. At least that's what our tourists are saying. Still have a long way to go, but that's a positive sign.
Rolando, is that Miami begins with me?
Well, part of it, and again, it's not just the efforts of what happens in hotels and attractions, but the Bureau launched about 5 years ago a customer service-centric program working not just with the hotels, which do an amazing job, but frankly with our airport, our seaport, even our taxi cabs, and that's something that's an ongoing effort and something that will be a critical part of the strategic planning process. Restaurants has seen a significant jump. Again, this is domestic. We've all grown up in the culinary world, Miami Spice, South Beach Wine and Food Festival, which benefits this amazing university, of which I'm a proud graduate. Any other Golden Panthers in the room? All right, look at that. Wonderful, wonderful. And then cultural activities, and this is actually very telling. 0.3% back in 07, 2011, 14.2%. So that's a huge jump. And when you look at some of the things on the international side, I'm not going to go through them again, but you can see some dramatic jumps. Cultural activities from 1% to 30%. So obviously the international set are truly recognizing our arrival as a cultural community. Art Basel and all the slew of other art festivals that are going to happen over the next couple of weeks, but it's what's happening on our museum front as well, and it came up quite often during our cultural and heritage tourism session as well. So this will set the stage for some of the discussion. In terms of the markets, Bill talked a little bit about the global view, but you know, New York continues to be our #1 market. It's seen significant growth over the last 5 years, but it's interesting to note, you know, Dallas-Fort Worth, close to 10%. Not surprisingly, that's also home of American Airlines, a dear, dear partner, major hub, and I think that has definitely played a role in that. But LA, Los Angeles, not number 9, but the percentage growth is quite significant. And I think that starts speaking to our success in some of the film and production industry, which is another key component for the Bureau's marketing activities. So that's on the domestic side, and I'm sure you're all active in these markets. I know your Bureau is. Right now, the Bureau has global offices in 45 different places across the world, including 5 offices within the U.S. On the international side, Brazil. I mean, this is pretty dramatic growth in Brazil over the last 5 years, close to 50% growth. Argentina, 35%. Those aren't shabby numbers from Argentina and from Colombia, which now has surpassed Germany overall in terms of major market share. So you can see that Europe in general has not seen the growth that Latin America, the South America has. But these over the 2011 figures on their own, although you've seen a slight decline in England over the 5-year span, we actually saw positive growth last year from England, 2.2%. So I think we've turned the corner in Europe. We're seeing positive growth with all our top European markets. So that's something that I also wanted to share with you. So with that, I can pause on any quick questions on that because we're going to have a lot of Q&A time. But if not, I'm going to actually pause on that and introduce our key partners in this process. As I mentioned earlier, it was a rather exhaustive RFP process, but I think we selected, well, I know we selected the best at what they do, which is the partnership between Ernst & Young and MMGY Global. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Cohen, who's going to walk us through some general topics of discussion, and he's also going to stimulate conversation. And we've got some general topics. We want you to respond to ideas with your own ideas so that we can make sure that they're considered in our strategic planning process. So Steve?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me today. It's interesting because I could be considered one of the people that was on a number of those slides. I flew down this morning, even from Orlando. We fly here. Came through MIA. I was one of the 97%. Some people consider Orlando to be another country. It's a little different there. I grew up here. I love it here. Orlando's a very different place. I'm very happy to be here working with the Bureau and with Ernst & Young on this project. So I'm going to take you through the project team, the planning process, and the most important part is getting your feedback. We're going through an exhaustive process in interviewing, having conversations with stakeholders, with travel, meeting planners, tour operators, and we're very interested in what you have to say as well. The net of all this will be that we can put together, along with Ernst & Young, a significantly actionable 5-year strategic plan for the Bureau. So with that, I'll go the wrong direction. It was so good the first time, I thought you'd want to see it again. So without tooting our horns, you know who Ernst & Young is, and they're not here today, I'm sorry about that. You get me from MMGY Global. Probably don't know who we are. You can see a little bit about us there. The key thing to know about us is we focus only on the travel and hospitality industry. Our primary clients are destination marketing organizations, and then also hotels, airlines, what have you. But all we do, ranging from research to full service ad agency, is in the travel and hospitality space. So my focus and my part of the organization is in research and insights. And that's where we're partnering with Ernst & Young to conduct all of the research and the interviews around this process. They're brilliant strategic planners. They needed someone to help them conduct the data collection, the analysis of what we learned from people. So that's the role that MMGY Global is playing. So here's what we're doing. I like to say that I usually believe people in my audiences know how to read, so I'm not going to read you everything on the slide. We're all very educated people. But we're doing a number of background. What's the state of the industry today? What's the tourism infrastructure look like today? And then what should it look like? And by doing significant numbers of interviews, and I'll get to that here, this is the process that we're taking to get to where we're trying to be. So we're doing interviews in town halls. We've talked to about 40 key stakeholders all over Miami-Dade County. We're talking to people in 5 different town halls. This is the second one. You heard about the first one in Little Haiti a couple weeks ago. We're doing some quantitative and qualitative research, and I won't get all researchy on you, even though that's what I do. We're talking to 1,000 domestic vacationers, and we're talking to 1,200 international vacationers from 4 different countries around the globe to understand What causes them to visit Miami? What are some of the barriers that keep them from visiting Miami and the beaches? What would they like to see more of? What's missing? Are there any hidden gems here? As we talk to the stakeholders, you all are in this every day. I live in Orlando. I might as well live in another country. I don't know all of the things that are here for people to do that we don't see on a regular basis. So what we want to do is try to highlight some of those as we present our version of the 5-year strategic plan. So it's interesting for me to hear some of the things that are here that weren't here when I moved up to Orlando 17 years ago. We're talking to international and domestic meeting planners and tour operators and getting their sense of when their clients want to come to Miami, what is it that they're looking for, and what are the things that might stop them from coming here? So what recommendations can we make to the board to determine or to help them say, well, you know what, we can do that, or we can emphasize that. We already have this. So that's some of the things that we're doing. Then the last thing is we're talking to convention and visitors bureaus in competing markets. And we've been very upfront with them saying we're doing something for Miami. We want to understand what you're doing. Not trying to take your guests away and bring them to Miami, but maybe we are. But we're really interested in what they've done and what's worked for them and what's been successful and what hasn't. We might as well learn from those that have done and use that as part of how we move forward. So then we're also discussing best practices, and that will all come together into our strategic plan. So as a researcher, I can't not give you some data. So I thought I'd share some interesting facts with you. We do a study called the Portrait of American Travelers. We've been doing it for 22 years, and we talked to about 2,500 people and asked them pretty much a novel-sized questionnaire. I'm still not sure how or why they fill it out, but thank you, that keeps us employed. And we asked them, in this case, interest in visiting, and you can see the percentage of interest in visiting Greater Miami and the beaches is up 2 percentage points from 2010. Interestingly, though, as it pertains to getting off travel and just into consumer, anxiety seems to be, it's still there. People hear the recession is over, that they hear about a fiscal cliff. They don't know that it's, so 58% are still telling us they don't think it's over. Even though I'm being told it's over, I don't necessarily believe it. Interestingly as well, people are willing to pay more for quality items. So if you look at 5 percentage point increase in the last year for people who are willing to pay more for quality. So I know that Bill has talked about positioning Miami as the luxury destination. We're seeing from people who have answered our surveys that people are willing to pay more for that luxury destination, and more for the quality that Miami and the beaches can offer. And finally, travel intentions are up. That's a good thing. We ask people their travel intentions for the next year. You can see that the more people are interested in traveling next year versus those who are saying they will travel less. The vast majority say they'll travel the same, and if I put up the other slide that showed you that travel has been up for the last 3 years, it's a good thing for everyone in the room. So with that, we get to the part of the conversation that has to do with you. We're very interested in listening to what you have to say. I mentioned earlier that we've talked to a number of stakeholders. We've talked to about 40 of them, some of whom may be in the room today. We have some discussion topics for you, but we're very interested in your feedback, your input. I'm a trained focus group moderator, so I'm used to saying this. There are no wrong answers. Everyone's opinion is valid. It's kind of like a brainstorming session where you can't really say anyone's wrong. It's just their own opinion from the lens that they see things through. This is what they believe to be true. And we're interested in what everyone has to say. So like, if I'm moderating a focus group, I say, tell me what you think. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Don't tell me what you think your neighbor or your friend or your colleague thinks. I'm interested in what you think. And so when you see a question on the board or we pose a question to you, please feel free to tell us what you think. There's no, I'm not going to say, well, what are you talking about? I'm really interested in what you have to say. So with that said, we get to the first question. You can all read the question. And as I like to say in our focus groups, you don't have to wait to be called on. We have microphones here, but I think everyone can hear me pretty well. Unless you feel the need to use a microphone, you can feel free to speak right up and say what you think. Interesting response. And for the purpose of the camera, it's how can we increase the awareness of the unique experience that Greater Miami and the beaches has to offer? Go right ahead, sir.
I want to go back to one of the first couple of slides you had, and you talked about a unique experience. we've seen the growth of the international traveler, a positive numbers and percentage of growth. However, international ambiance, as the international traveler describes us, is down. Again, I'm not sure what international ambiance is, except if we're getting more travelers and they're not thinking that we're providing them the right ambiance for their comfort, then there's an imbalance there.
Okay. And what do you think what's missing? What is that ambiance that they're looking for that we're not providing them?
That's the question I would pose to the group.
Okay.
I mean, if you think as a traveler in Europe, there are a lot of quaint inns and villages, and although we have certain enclaves like South Beach that may offer that quality, it doesn't necessarily exist throughout the whole Miami-Dade County.
Okay.
Now, having not gone through the cultural experiences that you went through, Diane, maybe that was brought up there, but it just seems to me that, we're a fast-paced city, a lot of traffic, that European cities or international cities are also, but maybe it's got a feeling of comfort in being in a small little enclave rather than a very large, spread-out metropolitan area.
Thank you.
I think a lot of that also has to do with customer service, because in Europe, you are treated very royally, the service is top-notch. So I think a lot of that might have to do with the customer service issue, that people aren't feeling that they're maybe treated in that very elegant.
Do you feel like customer service has gotten better?
It has
in the
gotten
past?
better.
And where do you think it's lacking?
The
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I would say some of the restaurants, definitely taxi cabs are still a major issue there. What I've seen.
Okay.
And some of the smaller hotels, perhaps. I think the larger hotels have that pretty well done. They do their own trainings and all of that. But some of the smaller hotels, they don't
Okay.
need.
Great. I'm not letting this side of the room off the hook. I'm gonna come stand over here.
Yeah, and they can't, if you can stand up, they're not gonna use more, at least they can't, they're like me. They're a little hearing aid,
So let's hear from someone on this side of the room.
Pass the mic. There is a mic on that side. We'll pass it around because it makes it easier to pick up on the video. So we want to. So just whoever wants to grab that mic, and I'll have a mic here and I'll pass it around. Yeah.
This isn't such a difficult question, is it? How can we increase the awareness? What is it that's missing?
I think the cultural component in Miami has definitely improved. There's nowhere near, definitely the cultural component of Miami has definitely increased. If you go back 20, 30 years ago, we used to have the Miami Symphony Orchestra, which we don't have anymore. Thank God that now we have Michael Thomas with the New Orleans Symphony here, so it's something that is very positive. But the city of Miami's size and cultural awareness worldwide should have its own symphony orchestra, in my opinion.
Okay.
London has 5 full-time orchestras, so it's 3-chamber orchestras year-round. We cannot compete in that respect, or with Vienna, Berlin, you name it. I think Miami needs to put itself forward as a cultural center. The Art Basel has definitely helped. I'll tell you one experience we had, and Sandy was with me in 1998. We took the New World Symphony on tour to 4 major European capitals. He was co-sponsored by the state. Michael Thomas went along with the symphony orchestra. We played in London, Paris, Amsterdam, and Vienna. One of the great capitals of music. And a lot of the people that were invited were the tour operators, where we hosted a cocktail previous to the symphony orchestra. Later, after the symphony, people wanted to join us for dinner, they did that. And the reviews we got about Miami being a city that not only offers sun, but also great music, was very positive, extremely positive. I think we should do this again. It was 1998, it's been 14 years. I think we should do it again. Again, just to showcase something, a different aspect of the city. And, and in terms of the service standards, definitely Miami has a reputation of not having one of the friendliest people in all of the USA. If you go to London, we should learn from the politeness of the British. It's very tough to breathe in one generation, but a little more training perhaps would help. Seeing how other tourists are treated in the UK and other cities. Paris is not a good example, by the way. And I have a good friend here who happens to be French, and he recognizes that. But the truth of the matter is, each country has something to offer. We should emulate the positives of each country. The joie de vivre of the Italians is something that Miami has definitely hit upon very well. Miami probably has more Italian restaurants outside of New York than any other city in the USA. And we need to tag along some of those positive things and try to do away with the negatives.
I have a question for the group, because you made some interesting points. As part of the conversations we've had with the stakeholders, we've heard a lot about customer service. And the comment is typically the large hotels, they have training, so their customer service is better than the rest. We've heard a lot about taxis in the airport. Who does that responsibility lie on? Who's responsible for that?
Everyone. You
Well, I
cannot
mean-
leave it on one person.
It's difficult. I mean, we can certainly, as an advisory group, say we need to increase the customer service levels throughout the city, but that's not an actionable thing to do. We have to be more specific in terms of saying we need to increase the customer service awareness, success rates by doing the following. And we can say by training, but again, we have to be much more specific about who's going to do this training. Is there some body that will take over training and customer service for the city? How would that best work?
Maybe FIU, along with Miami-Dade Junior College, could, admit some type of diploma. Like in London, you don't become a taxi driver unless you pass a 2-year exam. You have to know every street in London, which way they drive. And they hire extremely polite people. I mean, you can get a guy here who swung from Cuba yesterday driving a car almost the next day. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm exaggerating, of course.
But
Maybe not.
I think I rode with him today.
But everything starts from the moment you arrive in Miami, and that's customs. Who can train customs?
That's
They're
true.
really nasty. I mean, even with Americans sometimes, it depends when, what day of, what they were doing that day. But that's one of the biggest complaints that my clients have,
That's true.
is customs. When they arrive in Miami,
First
they're not
impression.
treated really well.
Is customs different here than in other U.S. cities?
Not really,
Not
but
really.
this is one of the this is one of the complaints that they have. So
Oh, but no, I don't mean that to dismiss it, because I saw the slide that said we have twice as many international tourists as any other city in the U.S. So clearly, it's an issue for more visitors than it is for other cities.
The flow is different in customs. I just came in from Jamaica through customs. And there's something like 50 immigration officers. There's a great new system there to flow through immigration. You go down, and then when you get to the baggage claim area, it's exceedingly cramped, and there were five customs officials for all of those international flights, and all of those carousels had 3 or 4 flights on each. And now you've got this great flow. You come to the baggage area, it starts backing up, and then you come to the customs. There wasn't even any lines. People were shoving and pushing, and not intentionally being rude, but there was no guidance. So you didn't know where to go. It was disastrous. And if I was coming home, if I was going on vacation, I would not be happy at all.
Okay, thank you. What else? Yes, sir.
Yes, I was just going to add public transportation as well. Not only,
He's getting.
yes, I take the bus here, and that has to be one of the most frustrating experiences that I've had in my family as far as customer service is concerned. So that's definitely an area that I think who's in charge of that, Miami-Dade County or whatever it is, needs to.
What would make it better?
Give change.
I'd say just even being more helpful to patrons or anybody just giving them clear directions. They're really short with people and
Okay,
can easily be
great.
turned on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's jump from one side to the other. This is Jeff.
Okay. I will jump to this side next.
I think it's, before you look at costs for public transportation, you gotta look and see where those employees are coming from and what kind of training and demographics they come from. And then support programs that help train those people. We run a program here at FIU, Learning Skills for Life, which is an outreach program, and we do just that. We take people from shelters and underprivileged and underserved populations and give them basically life skills and hospitality skills over a 6-week period, so that when they go out and get a job as a dishwasher, the best dishwashers out there, because they can at least look at you in the eye and be polite and develop that. So I think there needs to be more awareness and more supportive programs from institutions and various organizations that refer that have potential employees.
Your point is well made. I worked in the hotel business for a number of years, as do many of you in the room. You know, in the hotel business, everyone demonstrates customer service. It doesn't matter your role. So thank you for what you have to say. Yes?
Hi, as a recent transplant from LA to Miami, I lived here for 2 months. But I'd like to first of all echo the sentiment that the airport, Miami Airport, is very difficult to fly out of. It's great to fly into, but very difficult as someone who flew back and forth for 2 years. I deliberately flew into Fort Lauderdale because it was so much easier to fly out of. And secondly, because I have a unique perspective from trying to build my life here now that I've lived here for 2 months. And I find that one thing that's really an issue for me in Miami, that's an issue for tourists, because I'm in hospitality, so I operate as a tourist when I live somewhere. And one of the issues is that there's really poor online presences for a lot of businesses. So I think that it's really important that the businesses, especially the small and unique businesses, are encouraged to work on their SEO, put out their hours of operation that are correct. There's a lot of disparity in how they're doing that. It's very difficult to actually find things to do and do them because there's a lot of wrong phone numbers and all kinds of things, and that really needs to be a focus.
Thank you. Yes.
Going on another track, we were talking about the clientele, we're doing and willing to pay for more. I just go back to Shura when Williams Island was being built and they brought in Sophia Loren and she sold it out. We could use the assistance of a celebrity spokesperson that would help, because all you need is 1 or 2 of the people in that level that will start telling their friends when they do come in. Of course, then we got that other issue, all the customer service, but we got to get them here first.
Thank you. Yes.
I understand that we're talking about training a little bit, but I really think it's a matter of educating people. You can train people to be friendly and make eye contact and do all the things that we do in the hospitality industry, but people who are really educated on an area are comfortable explaining to other people, sharing with other people. So I think it's more a matter of, taking the people who are coming here, moving here, and educating about what is unique about Miami, because everyone can go to the Bahamas and go to beaches and go to certain places for shopping, but if they don't know how to live like a local here, they won't be able to share that.
Thank you. Okay. Any other thoughts on this topic? Yes.
For tour guide, at Miami-Dade College, there is a tour guide program for training. Thank you. There is a tour guide program over at Miami-Dade College's North Campus. It trains tour guides really to have more awareness about the cultural and heritage areas of Miami, the greater Miami area, and that's been going well. It's really in partnership with the GMCBB, South Florida Concierge Association's Professional Tour Guide of South Florida, and FAME, another program. It's going very well, but one of the things they also notice is that they're hoping to incorporate some of the standards, the international standards, like the taxi drivers in London that have the standard testing and all these things. They don't see that here. They're coming from these areas to learn our tour guiding system. So if we had more awareness of that program, being out there, I think more people would take it, even if they're not tour guides, but other people would take that training.
I'm going to answer your question. If you listen to everybody who has to say about service, actually it starts with the service, and maybe we can be more or give more unique experience that we are a service industry. Miami, like we go out, it's like why are we well known for? It's like we have great service. We don't have it right now. We got better. Been here also living for 18 years. But I think it comes together with everything, like she said, the transportation. I come from Europe. I was trained 5-star, and I learned everything about service. And I think when the school needs to start, when they have here the classes at FIU, then maybe you need to take a class, like someone else said. You need to pass it. How does service work? You know, how do you treat your customer? How some sort of protocol. I mean, the hotels, I blame some hotels too. You know, I work in an independent hotel, and it's a lack of money. They don't pay enough money, and they don't want to train in a certain way. So that's one component you are not in control of. However, I think if the schools start, when you study hospitality, you have to go some kind of customer service training class. And I think if you go there and then you go out as a salesperson and sell Miami as a destination, I think you can say, you know what, in the next 3, 4, 5 years, you can say like, you know, we have the best service in town. We don't have right now, but we could be there. We do it the right way.
But let me throw something out there. Number one, when you do make a comment, please, if you don't mind, just go ahead and say who you are and where you're from. It's great for us as we go back and document this. And to the credit of most of the group, you've been talking about big issues that impact all parts of our community. That's great. Customer service came up, transportation. And that is greater, those are issues that impact all of Greater Miami. But there is a reason we actually are having this session in North Miami-Dade. We're having one in South Dade. And I suspect that when I go to South Dade, I'm going to hear about some of these issues that are almost a little bit more near and dear to the southern part of our community. So I don't want you to hold back. If there are things, we don't want you to hold back. If there are things that are more specific, and maybe transportation is one that rises to the top for the northern part of our community. I mean, Sunny Isles, over the last 10 years, I know Iverson's here as their executive director of the marketing entity, but so many things have changed. So if there are any specific areas that you'd like us to consider in this process that are specific to the northern part of the community, even though we do encourage you to look at everything from Greater Miami, but this is your chance also to be a little bit more parochial as well. I mean, we're here at FIU North Campus. What's happening in Aventura is amazing. With what's become of those assets, what's happening in Sunny Isles. So I just thought I'd kind of pepper the conversation a little bit.
So, this is what we talked about a little bit earlier. We've done some of our stakeholder interviews. What's missing? I think we answered that question a little bit earlier, talking about symphony, something that's potentially missing and lacking to some of our visitors. But what else is missing? So if someone's considering Miami and they're thinking about going to other competitive cities, what causes them to go there because we don't have it here? What can you come up with?
Great museums.
Great museums.
Absolutely.
Theater. Okay. Yes, sir.
I think those other cities probably tell the story of who they are and what they are better than. To me, a lot of these other cities tell the story about who they are and what they are in a better way than we do. We are a great community. We don't sell ourselves well enough. We need to tell our own story in a better way so that people will want to come here.
So are we telling the wrong story, or are we not telling a story?
I don't think we're telling enough of our story.
So what's missing?
Well, who knows outside of our community about the fact that we have a world-class ballet and we have the Arts Center? You know, that we know it because it's in our backyard, but do the people in Peoria know it? And do the people in Paris know it? And I don't think they do. And you know, we're terrific. How do we get that word out?
Adding to his comments, I am Jude Self, an assistant professor at FIU, teaching in the Chaplain School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. Heading to Steve Moles, Vice President of Nursing in Biscayne campus, his comments. I was comparing Las Vegas and Miami, but when you
a decade ago, several years ago, Las Vegas launched a marketing campaign, What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas. And it's still going on, and people still talk about it on YouTube, Facebook, those social media is full of, those, what do you call, parody or something? Different versions of the customer-generated content. So there are tons of stories, secret stories or public stories they want to talk about or share with their friends. So some kind of a campaign that can grab tourist attention about Miami has something secret or some stories that you can tell about. That kind of a campaign might be helpful. And also I heard in Japan when it was the tsunami or the nuclear, that those incidents, crisis happened, tourism bureau, their government marketing government agency, they created some campaign, asking tourists to send your stories, why you should visit Japan or your experience in Japan when you visited. So asking them to tell their stories. And of course, there's a prize or incentives or round fare, airfare tickets, something like that. So they kind of word of mouth can spread easily and quickly. So perhaps Miami Commissions and Visitors Bureau can use a social media or some kind of a TV national campaign that can go have a mass appeal, and not just us, but let them create stories and then compete for prize. I think that might be very helpful if you are not doing it or have not done a kind of program yet.
Thank you.
Sorry for taking too long.
No, that's fine. Interested in what everyone has to say. Yes, ma'am.
Well, the things that locals sometimes themselves don't know what it is here. The locals themselves sometimes don't know what it is that they have here. Just to educate the locals, we had at North Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce, along with the county, did a tour where they showed around everything else in North Miami Beach. And oftentimes, we also take trips to the ancient Spanish monastery, and most of the time people go there, they've never been there, even though it's been here since the 1950s. But most people don't know really what they have in their own community, how rich the culture already is. So I think educating locals, resident discounts, these kind of things will help to get the word out.
So would you say that by doing some type of education of locals, that the locals would become more of the spokespeople for the story, going back to your point? Okay. I see hands up. Yes.
Hi, Sandy Edwards. In reference to the attractions, I'm a very firm believer that we need to promote them and they need to get the exposure. And that's all part of the destination. And in order to sell Greater Miami, you have to sell a total package. And that is including all the attractions and the museums and the symphonies, everything. And I think maybe that's what we need to do. And whether it be hotel packaging, whether it be the GMCBB, including that more as more of a more informational, as we're out there promoting. I mean, I think that would be a great way of getting people to know what all the destination has in all the different areas. But before said, we as who live here take our own selves for granted. We take our own destination for granted. We don't visit it unless, the kids are coming for the holidays, we'll take them somewhere. But you know what, we need to get out. Maybe we do something locally to really get the local people to really experience their own attractions and their own museums and symphonies, etc. So they do know what the destination has to offer. Because once you've experienced it, people talk about it.
So it's like the New Yorker who only goes to the Statue of Liberty when people come to visit.
Exactly. But speaking of Orlando, they've done the trip where the Disney, in-state Disney is a big deal. So you get, it's what, a third of the price or a quarter of the price to go to Disney if you're from the state of Florida. So something like that where it's promoted that way.
As a former Disney employee, afterwards I can tell you why we did that and how it works.
But nonetheless, it's just the goal, what she's saying, to get the local people to actually come and see it, because again, that's a place that we only go to when our relatives are in town.
Right. And as an Orlando resident, we only go when the relatives come.
Right.
I don't know if many of you remember this, but there used to be a campaign, and this was like a 100 years ago, and okay, I'm only 99, but see it like a native.
And that was a great campaign, see it like native.
Okay. Question, comment over there? No? Come up.
Hi, I'm Jesse Walters. I'm a councilman in Miami Shores, and I run the Chamber of Commerce there too. My comment has to do with your tourism product question, and also specifically this part of the county. I realize you guys don't build hotels and decide where they go, but to the extent that you speak to developers or feasibility studies come across your desk, we could really benefit, really use a full-service, first-class hotel in this part of the county. The people I speak to don't want to stay on the beach, even the northern beach, and they think the airport's kind of lame. So to have a hotel here in this part of the county, I'm not sure about the demand, but I do hear that complaint from the business community here.
Mark from Minas. I remember there was this campaign you had, Greater Miami Convention Business Bureau had this year with like pop-up pools in different cities. And I think if they do it in a lot of cities at the same time, I think they get a lot of media awareness. And I think if you bring out certain things like, you know, attractions, what to do, not just the pool and swimming, I mean, you know, show videos. I think it's a great idea. And if I would live in New York or I live in Paris or whatever, and I walk down the main street and see a swimming pool and it's Miami in the sun, I think it's a great way of giving awareness and how to push the destination. I just think they should do more of that, and I think they can involve more hotels. I'm actually a hotelier, and they reached out to me to want to give a certificate. I actually did, but they never used it. So I'm saying is there's, I think, a lot of people who will give out attractions or giveaways or anything, and the media will show it on TV in the morning news or anything like this. So I think it's a great thing, and it would be great if they will continue doing it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Wall with Chaplain School of Hospitality. I think it would be maybe a good idea to perhaps come up with an app for your iPad or your phone. Miami seems to be a destination, unlike a lot of European cities anyway, where people tend to do self-guided tours instead of get on a bus and go visit the different attractions. To come up with some sort of bureau-sponsored application that perhaps for a cost even, a foreign visitor can log in and actually take a self-guided tour in their language throughout all the attractions in South Florida.
Thank you.
I want to answer the question. There are some things that I see in other cities we don't have here. I don't see the obvious visitors welcome center on the main routes, let's say Biscayne or even up here, where in Europe they usually have a nice center that has the international clocks and interns that speak different languages and huge signage, and they usually tell you what's happening today, what's the events going on, what you can see this week. Really good advertisement and signage, and it's usually an open area. It's usually a place where they have the buses also for the tour buses. But it gives them great information about what's going on in the city for that day and that week.
If you're going to do that here, where would you put it?
On main route like Biscayne Boulevard, someplace where tourists are likely to drive through and see, especially US 1.
That's a valid point. We can do it with volunteers. Graduates who want to do an internship, totally volunteer.
Right. Okay. Yes.
I think one of the biggest differences we have too, compared to other cities, is how spread apart we are. Because we don't have the public transportation that other cities do. It makes things seem even further apart. So I'm a full Aventura Lima. So for me, our drivers are really well trained, but I really do think that even public transportation and cabs and things like that need to be trained further, so that they're aware of how to get places and to make sure that it's appealing to tourists, not driving through areas we don't necessarily want to show off, things like that would benefit us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Rene Lopez from the City Hotel. I'm glad that you guys are coming forward, inviting us to
these meetings so that we can give you, our thoughts on some of the things that we think that should be done. I think that Miami has been extremely successful in the last 10, 15 years. Personally, I think we became a little complacent. In the 1980s, with the challenge of the Mariel boat lift, Miami came up with wonderful ideas. The sophisticated tropics for me was one of the best we came up with. Miami, see it like the natives and so forth, because we needed to really rebrand the name, and we got a lot of great people involved. They're still here. We've got Miami Sound Machine. They're retired, but they do things for us. We got to exploit those people. People love the Miami Sound Machine, especially in Japan. There are idols there. We need to exploit them again. Today's music is a little bit different. It's evolved. This doesn't mean you don't have to bring back the old days. You go to Vienna, they play the Vienna waltz of the 1900s or 18th century. They still play today. People love them. I think the Miami Sound Machine will be something like that. It'll be a sound that people will really enjoy for many years. The Beatles are making a huge comeback in London. I went to see Let It Be. Amazing. Everybody was clapping, singing. Miami needs to find its own roots, its strong points, exploit them constantly, bring them to the fore, and not become complacent. Just because we had 10 good years of growth, that doesn't mean that it's always going to go in that direction. Cities can go backwards.
Oh, that's why we're doing this.
And the numbers in Europe are not reflecting very positive feelings towards not just Miami, maybe the USA. We know that Mr. Bush had a lot to do with that, with his history. So we got to move forward and look at ways of getting the Europeans back to the USA. Germany is a great market. UK is another great market. France is another great market. Italy, and so forth. We haven't done a mission to Scandinavia in at least, 10 years? I used to do missions every 2 to 3 years. We'd have missions to Scandinavia. We would hit every country, including Finland. Russia is a powerhouse, especially if you guys are going into the high-end market. It's there. We should be doing missions to Russia every single year.
I can tell you, as part of the surveying we're doing of international consumers, we're talking to 300 people in Russia to get a sense of a market that's emerging for us in Miami. And let's hear what they have to say that may be different than what we're hearing from some of the
Talk to the Russian
established market.
travel bureau. She will tell you how successful she has been. She started about 15 years ago. 2 ladies or 3 ladies. Now they have 3 floors with over 50 ladies working for them. So definitely, these are the people you need to talk to really know what's really happening out there, and really do something about it. Not pay lip service and then forget about it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Rogers from Hotel Beds, a wholesale receptive operator. I just wanted to just say that I actually don't feel that Miami has become complacent over the recent years. In fact, I think it's probably a more exciting destination to visit than it ever has been. Just in the past 5 years or so, while I've been living in Miami since moving down from Orlando, I've seen the hotel product improve significantly. I think we were talking earlier about service levels. I think in any big city, you're always going to find disparity in service levels from one hotel to another. That's not something that's going to change. I don't think, not change easily anyway. And I don't actually think that would be a deciding factor for customers to whether or not they book to come to Miami or go to another destination within the US, for example. I think one of the things in terms of definitely the international traveller and probably also the domestic traveller as well is just communicating more about what Miami does have to offer these days, because I think there's so much going on. We said it, we live here, we don't even know ourselves half the time what's happening in Miami. I'll drive down the street and I'll see something on a lamppost and oh, that looks interesting, the banners and things that go up that I wouldn't necessarily have known about otherwise, but we've got so much going on here now, whether it's Miami Spice, Spa Month, Wine and Food Festival, all the things. There's something going on constantly throughout the year, and I don't think we're getting the message across to the international consumer about all of those things that they would that maybe would influence them to come and book and stay in Miami rather than go somewhere else. I think a lot of the time they'll book because they want to come to a beach destination or because they want to come to a shopping destination, and then they find out by default about a lot of these other things once they actually get here. And I know the GMCBB website has, you know, a lot of amazing information on there, and I think, I don't know what efforts go in behind the scenes to get people to use that or to get people to that site. But if we could get more tour operators and travel agents to see through that site what is actually available, and then get that message passed on to the end consumer, I think that would be, you know, a great starting point.
Thank you. Cassie, one more hand. We'll go on to the next question after this one.
In regard to what other cities do as opposed to what Miami does, I think that there's something that Miami's gotten much better at, which is branding not only Miami as a destination, but the individual areas of Miami. Like, for example, if you ask somebody in Chicago, where's Doral, nobody's going to know that. So, so not just branding the city, but making people feel like they know where to go in the city and where those locations are, what the boundaries are, and then they feel like they've accomplished more when they see more. Like, for example, in New York, everybody knows where Brooklyn is, where Midtown is, Soho, LA, West Hollywood, Beverly Hills. You know, it's a much, it's branding on a more micro level in relation to the
Okay, let's go on to the next question. So now put yourself in the shoes of a resident. You live here, you talk to people, if people come to visit, what do they say? What do you hear from them? Yes. You're ready to jump right in this one.
Good afternoon. My name is Adriana from the Holiday Inn for
And you came all the way up here with my limited knowledge of Dade County
from
geography.
Coral Gables to my alma mater, FIU. I have a lot of family to visit, and I always hear the same comment. I don't know if this was addressed earlier, just sharing with everybody here, that the first impression is what counts. And unfortunately, we're very extremely weak at the airport. And that is their first impression, that the staff, especially the nice gentlemen that handle the luggage, they are not, you know, performing up to par. They do not offer the service expected. They go to the extreme of asking you for the amount of money that they need to receive that moment and complaining if you don't pay them what they expect you to pay them as a tip. You know, either that's not clear or that they were not trained properly, but the airport seems to be a huge comment from all tourists across the board. Not trained, rude, lack of knowledge. So again, if we could begin with our training at the airport, making it tougher with checks, you know, we provide them the training, then check on them, see the, you know, the scores that they are performing right from every single employee at the airport, because that's the first, you know, impression once they arrive to Miami. And the language, obviously, having enough staff or maybe an assigned person in a wing that knows multiple languages, or somebody who can assist travelers properly, whether they need English or Spanish or Portuguese. But that's the first comment, unfortunately, that the rudeness, that are people not being friendly enough, and that is not right.
Thank you. What else do you hear? Don't hear anything?
Good or bad?
Yeah, yes.
Well, I have family that come from France and the Caribbean,
and they always have a fabulous time when they come. So on a positive note, there's so much here. And I think it's really up to us as residents who live here that we know what's going on. I'm fortunate enough to work for Welcome and Bienvenidos magazine, so I know a lot of what's going on, and I make a point of taking them to different attractions, to different museums, and to mangoes, and to all these fabulous things that they have a great time. So if we know what we can offer our members, our family and friends, when they come here, they'll have a fabulous time because there's so much to do here. And there's a lot of outdoor festivals, and there's just so much that you can be doing 2 and 3 things a day and never do the same thing.
Part of our stakeholder interviews, we've asked people, when you have guests in town, if you could control their experience for a day, what would you make sure they saw? And the thing that's been most interesting to me is the different answers. There's not a consensus of what you must do here. And to me, that speaks to the community and the number of different activities, things to see, places to go, things to do, that makes this the community that it is. I think if I did ask the same question in Orlando, it would be extremely narrow. The opportunity here is there is so much to do. How do you let someone know that it all exists? You all know because you live here. So the experiences that someone has visiting you might be vastly different than they have visiting you. Doesn't mean one's better or one's worse. They're all different. And that's why I asked the question to the group, what do you hear? What do they say when they come here? Whether it's in your personal life or your professional life.
So one of the things that I'm Giovanna Bella within the group one of the issues with family and friends is that we live most in residential areas. So unless we take the time to really take them around, it's difficult for them to visit different areas. So I think incorporating the residential areas to where the tourist destinations are or the attractions and making that transportation, that connection easier will definitely add to their experience. I think everybody loves Miami. I've never had anyone with a really negative experience. We get a lot, my boyfriend's from Suriname, and we get a lot of people that come here for business and shopping, and it's a challenge for us to get them around to different shopping centers and the hours of the stores and so forth. So just having a little more transportation services throughout the different areas would be definitely a point to look at.
You know someone's name now.
I agree with what she said about transportation. I mean, first of all, you have to look at an environmental point of view. With a lot of people who come here from Europe, and they're always like, wow, people still don't recycle. There's so many businesses not recycling, and you lose business this way. I have clients, groups, they say, how environmental is your hotel? It's like, oh, I don't separate my garbage. It's like, well, good luck, go somewhere else. So, but I think back to the transportation, I think it's very important if we have transportation, because I'm personally actually frustrated with something. I used to go to South Beach very often back in the days, and it used to be 25 cents a quarter, and now I think it's 8 minutes a quarter, or 9 cents, but I think it's a quarter. And so you sit in some parking lots and you go with your little, through your car, by looking for quarters, so you can at least maybe park an hour for like $1.50. And South Beach specific, because of the parking, it's really frustrating because there is not a lot, and then you go in the garage, it's $3, $10. I mean, you want to push for business, but then you charge so much, and there's no other option. So I would go back to transportation, but then if there's no transportation, or it's lacking in transportation, then you know what, I'll go somewhere else. And to be honest with you, I live pretty close here, and most of my time I go to Fort Lauderdale because I don't have that problem.
We've heard a good amount of conversation about transportation between the airport and the beach. Driving over to the beach, over the MacArthur Causeway at about 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, how long would that take to get over there and then to find a place to park? So we've as part of our stakeholder interviews, had a lot of feedback on some method of getting people to the beach and getting them out of their vehicles. To your point about parking and just the length of time it takes to get there. Keep them from going to Fort Lauderdale. Keep them here. What else do you hear? Hear anything? Yes? Hear something else. So after the airport, now they have something.
No, one more
else to
positive,
say.
on a positive note.
Okay.
Obviously, a huge motivator when they visit Miami is shopping. That's huge. So maybe going back to a wonderful comment that my colleague made, having maybe a couple of welcome centers in these shopping malls, the main ones, because so many people come to this area for shopping. And that's one comment that they make, that the shopping experience is fantastic. See, they just adore that. They are blown away by how beautiful the malls are and the offers and the sales and everything. So maybe CBB tagging along with shopping, something like that would be great.
Okay, move on to the next one. So, the big picture, how do we get better? We do. We've given some good ideas so far. Now I'm just going to ask you straight up, what can we do to be better? We deal with people every day who have reasons for visiting. We hear the good and the bad. We've talked about what's unknown, what's missing. What can, yes?
When you get off the road, all of those little jitneys, they have no tour guides. They are just people who take people to the different, venues where they can make commissions. It's time we licensed our tour guides and our tour companies.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted, my name is Maria Caldari, and I work with Community Hotel Solutions. It's my company, a small company that represents various hotels in Miami, in Coral Gables, Sunny Isles, in South Beach. But I don't think we have to leave everything to the greater Miami and the beaches. I mean, they can help us out, but I think it's important for the hoteliers also, when they send their salespeople to do sales calls, to really not only sell their hotels, but also the destination. A lot of times, yes, a lot of times when I visit these tour operators all over the world, they really like the fact that I sell also the destination, and I tell them what is Coral Gables, what is Sunny Isles, what is South Beach, and I also have a hotel in downtown. So you have to really sell the destination, not just the hotel. And this is one of the biggest complaints that these tour operators have. I just came back from Australia, and they didn't really know the difference between Coral Gables, Sunny Isles, downtown, and South Beach, and they were very, very happy to hear of that. So it's not only the entities like the Greater Miami Convention Business Bureau responsibility, but also the hoteliers.
Thank you. How's that? When it says what can Greater Miami and the beaches do, I don't want it to be perceived that it's just what can the CVB do. It's collectively what can the tourism and hospitality community do to improve the tourist experience. So I don't want to get hung up on what can Bill and his team do versus what can we do collectively as a group. Because when we come up with our strategic plan, it's not just for them to do. It's for people to buy into it and to say, yes, this is the right thing to do and I can do it. And you can do it. You can sell the destination. Bill and his team don't have to be the only ones selling the destination. The point is very well made. What else can people in this room do to enhance the experience? Yes, sir.
I think starts with basic training. I think we should think of creating some type of academy of tourism or academy of hospitality. I know FIU has one. We hire some of the students, but actual training in the position and actual hospitality cannot be taught in school. It's like learning philosophy rather than doing philosophy. It's very hard. I think there should be a practical approach to doing, and that has to be done in a hotel. Maybe you can start in the college, start in the courses, but it has to be in the hotels. And it has to be actually monitored. So, there are people that don't belong in this industry, I'm sorry. And a typical accountant doesn't belong at the front desk. They tend to be rude to the point, you're bothering me. It's like the night audit. I did night audits. I was front desk manager when I started my industry 35 years ago, and I trained people in the front desk when there were no computers, when you made eye contact with the guest, when it was very polite to welcome to the hotel. Today people, I have a reservation, but your name, they don't even look at the person. There's no eye contact. This is basic human.
You were at the front desk when I checked in.
You were. I won't.
Name?
Yeah, absolutely. I never do that.
ID. I don't even
I'm
think
very
you
bad
saw
at the
my
computer.
picture, you saw my driver's license. That's it.
She can vouch that I'm very bad at the computer. I'm an anti-friend of the computer. I believe the computer is separating the human from humans. I think we need to get back to that approach where there's eye contact, you know, where we really welcome people and it's a true welcome. It's not a fake smile, but a true smile. If you go to Thailand, which I've done twice, I've been lucky in my life, it's amazing what you feel welcome to tourists. You find out a lot of these, that a lot of people will tell you the best service in the world, bar none, is the Far East. Better than Europe, better than Latin America, better than North America. Because it's really a philosophy about people, how you treat people. And sometimes we just don't treat people right. And that has to be inbred and it has to be cultivated. And it can be done. You know, just like you learn Spanish or English or French or Russian as a second, third language, you can do the same thing. It has to be trained and somebody has to monitor. And they should issue the diploma. But it has to be carried through. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Yes.
There has to be a cooperation with Dade County as well as the Convention Bureau. Because we need to go back to the old-fashioned licensing, the tour guide, licensing the driver who's communicating and who's interacting with the tourist. There is no licensing now. And we have made a proposal to start the school again. And during the time of the school, all of these issues are addressed, including who to hire and who not to hire. And I do indeed have that proposal if you're interested. Thank you.
Iris Romero from Sunny and the Bureau. I think for me, one of the most important things is that we need to get the whole community involved in tourism, because I don't think people realize how important this industry is to our community. So I know a long time ago we had tourism as everybody's business, and we really need, there we go. We need to get that, yeah, and to get the word out, because this way it's not the hospitality industry, but it's the whole community chipping in and making Miami the destination it should be.
Yeah, my name is Barry Harris. I'm with the Doubletree by Hilton Ocean Point Resort, and I want to echo what Renee and Iris have just said. I agree with Renee with regards to a need for more specialized training in hospitality. And then going back to what Iris is saying community. Well, I think it has to start well before specialized training. And then working with Miami-Dade and the educational department to put it in grade schools, put it in high schools. Some sort of curriculum, not necessarily a full class, but teaching the younger generation, not those who've already graduated high school or are about to graduate college, but those who are just moving up in the world, starting their education, what hospitality can do.
Does that not happen now? Yes. Come from Orlando, we have that everywhere.
Right now, I'm talking about starting in every high school and grade school. And then it becomes more of a community involvement because it also has a great economic impact for them.
Picking up on what I just said a minute ago, I've been sitting here holding this pen for quite some time, since I've been here. Tourism is everybody's business. And that's something that I think we as a community don't get. When we think about what tourism has done for the community, all of the venues that we've built because of tourism, and the jobs that we've brought, I think as a community we are not appreciative of that. And so it gets back to a difference then between servitude and service. And so most of the people working today, I think, look at their work in tourism, I shouldn't say most of the people, several people, look at it as servitude, being in servitude, rather than providing a service. Because service and it is something that you want to do to make someone's life better. And when you're in servitude, you're doing it because I've got to be there, you know. And so I think, first off, understanding that tourism matters because it's putting food on the plate, on the table of many families in this community. It's building structures and making this a world-class community. The Arts Center, the ball stadiums, and on and on and on. That is because of tourism. And so I think what we need to do is to get the citizens to understand and embrace it, and embrace the whole notion of service.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes.
One was that we don't have, everyone doesn't have the same information. You know, we're not working holistically. There are schools already who have the Academy of Hospitality of Tourism, several schools that they have the program in. We have here Jeff Wall and his group with FIU. We have it over at Miami-Dade College, the tour guide program. But we also have the GMCBB that provides great information. And when he sends out, when Mr. Talbot sends out the what's happening, I think that's information that everybody doesn't have. And if they did, I think it would improve quite a bit how we work. I think a lot of people don't get that. And if the people who do get it can spread it out to their employees and to others, and if we all have the same information, we're able to provide a better service.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. We're going to wrap up in a moment. And again, I really appreciate the feedback. Couple of themes that I want to revisit, and I know this is going to be reviewed in detail, but customer service came up quite often. We're a world-class city. We're on our way to becoming a world-class city. I know we've been hearing that term forever on Lebanon in Miami. But we do have world-class hotels, we have world-class attractions, museums are being built. And definitely we recognize that we're still not there yet in terms of customer service. There's a lot of great educational partners, including FIU, obviously Johnson & Wales. Miami-Dade College has their Center for Service Excellence that we're partnering with on training. Academy of Hospitality and Tourism. That's a big one, and you have our commitment. That's first and foremost for us. Transportation. That is an area that we recognize to continue this path that we're on. We're going to have to get better at. We've come a long way. Our airport is still wanting in certain areas, especially that entry process. But I think we would all agree that the actual physical plant is significantly better than it was not too long ago. It's amazing what $6 billion can get you, right? So we're on this path of improvement. But we are going to need a lot of our other partners because the Bureau can wield influence in certain areas and in others it can't. We, Miami-Dade County, for example, for a lot of those transportation issues, signage has come up often. So those are the things that we're going to be working on. So the process, as I mentioned early on, we're taking all this feedback. We will be incorporating with our. I think I lost you guys. Still there? Okay. We'll be incorporating the feedback. We have several other sessions that, again, and I see some faces that were at the Little Haiti session. The dynamics change everywhere that we're at, and again, we're going to all parts of the community. We'll be tomorrow. In fact, we'll be at the Miami Beach Convention Center, which will hopefully we'll see a lot of the folks from the South Beach and Miami Beach area. On Wednesday, we'll be at the downtown area, the new downtown. I mean, we would all think that who would have thought not too long ago that you would be seeing baby strollers and yoga in the park in downtown Miami. So that's another exciting part of our community that now allows us to sell and tell more of the stories that we do need to become better at weaving. And then Thursday next week we'll be in South Dade at the new South Dade Cultural Center and hopefully draw from our friends from South Dade and Homestead and Florida City, which is a completely different experience. I mean, it's amazing that 30 minutes, 40 minutes away without traffic, you could be picking strawberries or on an airboat in the Everglades, and that's the type of those Miami moments, those so Miami moments that I think it sounds like we collectively need to do a better job of promoting. It's not just the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I mean, we're the lead organization, but all of us play a role. I will tell you that at the Little Haiti session, that came up consistently as well. It's how can we educate ourselves better? One of the ideas that I think will help is, we do fan tours for tour operators and journalists. We fly people from all over the world to showcase our community. But one of the real actionable items is we should have fan tours for the residents. You know, and we, the Bureau, can perhaps take a lead role in that, in sponsoring fam tours, working with our transportation partners, and taking ourselves to parts of the community, not just the newcomers like yourself, but even the old timers that have been here. Those Asian Spanish monasteries, not too far from here. I'm not going to even ask a show of hands how many folks haven't been there, but I'm sure a lot of us haven't. And it's the oldest building in the Western Hemisphere. Who would have thought? So anyway, we're committed to this process. We're committed to moving along. And with that, I'm just going to turn it over to my boss, Bill Tower, to call it a day. But please go to this website, destinationmiami.org. You can also fill out a separate survey. We're collecting data there as well. So thank you again.
Melinda, I wish you wouldn't use old time. We're here at the Chaplain School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. I want to get to you, Dr. Rice, in a second. Rocco is an institution here. You want to talk a little bit about the school, and programs, and then Dr. Rice is going to say about Johnson Wales programs, real quick, since we're here in your house and we're near Larry's house.
And Larry is very part of this house because he's a graduate of ours.
All right.
Anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Rocco Angelo, Associate Dean at the Chaplain School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at the fabulous Florida International University. Okay.
Get on center stage.
Thank you.
That
means I have to sing.
Let's hear it for Rocco. Everybody.
Great to see so many alumni all around. By the way, we require, and so does Larry, and at Miami Dade, we require an internship, multiple internships. So our students do get to work while they are studying all the other marvelous subjects they need to know. Anyway, we have on this campus, believe it or not, over 2,000 students in hospitality. And in Tianjin, China, at our Marriott program in Tianjin, we have 1,200 students. So this is becoming an enormous school, I'm happy to say. And in fact, the president wants us to double our enrollment, so stand back. Those of you who don't have a PhD yet, go back to school and come to work for us, please. But as you know, the South Beach Wine and Food Festival is ours, and it's been a very generous source of funding for scholarships and for facilities. We have right now a fabulous teaching kitchen and dining room where our students will be learning. Also, that is under construction, and just as soon as it's finished, hopefully at the end of February or March, that you will all get a chance to see it. It's going to be absolutely spectacular. We also are building a new brewing science lab. Yes, we make beer here. And if you come to the South Beach Wine and Food Festival, we generally serve it at our tent.
Thanks for getting everybody tickets that are here.
Pardon me?
Thanks for getting us tickets to the South Beach.
Oh, yes, thanks for getting, and we'll accept your check in the morning, Mr. Calvin. But we appreciate you being here, and...
You want to introduce Dr. Rice?
Well, Larry Rice, my gosh. Larry Rice.
Graduate, huh?
Oh, yes, a graduate by you, and a former student.
Come on. Let's hear it for Dr. Rice.
One of my past mentors, by the way. I still refer to him as Dean Angelo, and will always be Dean Angelo to me. And Professor Moe, who was also a mentor of mine. So I am a very
Tell
proud
us your
of that.
position. What is your position?
My name is Larry Rice. I serve as Vice President and Dean of Academic Affairs at Johnson Wales University's North Miami campus. We do have 4 campuses. There are 4 campuses. We are known for our School of Culinary Arts. However, we do have a College of Business. We were founded as a business college in 1914 in Providence, Rhode Island. So we're not just a cooking school. We have a School of Hospitality as well, and we just happen to be the neighbors of FIU. We're down the street, not too far, off of 127th Street. Now, as I was listening to today's topic, I was biting my tongue because most of what I would have said was said. And I don't believe that you have to always be heard. So when people make good comments, you just shake your head and agree and shut up. And that's what I did. But I will share with you what we tell students, and particularly prospective parents who are coming from other countries. they want to know about Miami because they've heard things about Miami. And so what is the true Miami? And I think that's the opportunity for us. If we can determine what is that indelible mark that we want to place in the minds of visitors. So when they come, they experience it. When they leave, they remember it. That what we said who we said we were, we actually was that when they were here. And we are the place where cultures meet. I mean, that's the one thing that we don't have to apologize for. So if there's confusion in terms of languages, in terms of service, we can leverage our strength. And that is one strength that we have. We are the gateways to the Americas. We're the bridge to the Americas. And so in order to go there, we provide that access, and we need to know that that's a strength of ours. Parents come, they experience that. And so all that was shared, I certainly agree with Ms. Washington there, that there are educational opportunities internally, and we try to educate our students on experiencing the Miami experience while they're here. Get out, learn, see what's happening, go to the Adrian Arts Center for Performing Arts, experience a show there. And it's one of those experiences that they will never forget. But go to Fairchild Tropical Gardens. Go to the Miami Fruit and Spice Park. So there are so many opportunities for students, but for visitors as well. And I agree and support all that was shared. We have a story. Professor Moe said it. I hope that that's the one message that's not lost today, that we need to determine what is the story, and let's share that story internally first so that in every home people understand that experience. There was a young lady sitting by me, and I didn't get her name. I don't know if she mentioned her name. What's your name? Kristen, and it's on camera, so they won't forget what you said, Kristen, in terms of that Orlando experience. That is important. That Orlando, if you want to go and experience those parks and reduce the rate, in the minds of people, it's cheaper, so they go. So if there's an opportunity to expose our residents to all of that Miami has to offer, and if you're a resident here, it should be different. We want them to go. We want them to live it, so when their friends and family come to visit them, they know where to send them to have a good time. And so again, on behalf of all the folks from Johnson & Wales that are here, we have quite a few members of our team representing our professional training department, as well as our chair of School of Hospitality, Dr. Alan Seidman, is our college chair of School of Hospitality at Johnson & Wales, and certainly one of our professors, Donna Morin.
Whole team here, huh?
Who's working? We have a team over there too. You always keep someone on the ground, keep the doors open. But certainly we were excited about being here. We definitely wanted to support this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rice.
In fact, we're under budget here. We want to talk a little bit about the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism, ever growing at the high school level. We have the Chair Edwards here.
Thank you. And I have to say, I have some of my board members here, and Dan Graham and Ibis, and I appreciate all that you do. And Dr. Rice, we do the Academy of Hospitality. Let me tell you just a brief bit about it. It is in 13 high schools here in Dade County, and we are out there with these kids. We're mentoring, we're interning, we're teaching them about hospitality. Those lead teachers are unbelievable. If you want to get involved and you want to make a difference and you want to see a change, these are our students of the future. Get involved, come to the meetings, let us get you involved with these students because they're amazing and you can make a difference. I do want to say that Johnson & Wales does our major fundraiser every year. They're an incredible sponsor. We love you, we thank you, you do an amazing job. And if you want to see something really incredible, the students of Johnson & Wales open up their kitchens, and we have this event every, the end of March, beginning of April. And we have this event where it's a fundraiser where the students come in and they do all the cooking for all different cuisines. They have about 5 different cuisines we put on every single year. And it is an amazing event. You get to see what these students actually do and how they're growing, how they're learning. It's absolutely amazing. And I also want to say I am a graduate of FIU. So please get involved because it's amazing. It's so rewarding. And these
all the
are
high schools involved.
There's 13 high schools.
Would you name them all?
I cannot. Miami Springs was the first one, and this is our 25th anniversary. We are having our Tourism Professional of the Year in December, And if you're interested, we'll make sure that you get your invitation for that as well. There's Tracy Morning right here in Aventura. Help me, please, ladies. Norland Senior High. Norland. Miami Lakes, Alonzo Morning, Homestead, absolutely. So whether you're in the south or in the north, if you need internships, we can do that. And certainly we'd love you to come and be a mentor. If you want to come and talk to these students, do a presentation, let them know what you do, where you've come from, and how you've developed and grown into this industry and what it means to you, that would be wonderful. We love that as well. So please, let us know if you're interested. We'd be happy to have you. Thank you.
We got one vodka out here. Sandra is offering half price to the Spanish monastery. Anybody gives you her card, gives you here's my card. Half price to the Spanish monastery. So with that, is there a move to adjourn?
So moved.
The bar is open. Thank you all for coming.